For our next story, we go to Iraq. Now, in the run-up to the Iraq War, it became seen as almost un-American to even question why we were going to invade them. There was an almost feverish pitch to avenge the atrocities of 9/11. So we went to war. Now, the problem with war is it's always worse than we think it's going to be. It's not manly bullet grazes on the shoulder. It's catheters and colostomy bags and never being able to walk again. And as I found out firsthand when I went there, sometimes the after effects of war are even worse. Now, this is what most people imagine when they think of the end of a war. Burnt out trucks, burnt out tanks, the flotsam and the jetsam of battle. One of the first ways that they found out about the environmental pollution was a lot of people were coming in with radiation poisoning and they couldn't figure out why. And then the doctors realized that they were all scrappers. They were coming here to take trucks and tanks and helicopters, all the disused scrap that had been blown up during the war. And then they realized that all of this stuff is actually radioactive. Now, of course, we all know that war is bad, but we don't know just how bad until it's over. Because the weapon systems used in modern warfare have horrific and enduring effects long after the fighting is stopped. In Vietnam, for example, the widespread use of the chemical compound known as Agent Orange, which was used by the American military, created a generation of deformed Vietnamese children that suffer to this day because of its toxic legacy. And an even more recent example of the toxic after effects of war is developing on the former battlegrounds of Iraq. The cities that experienced the heaviest fighting are now suffering through a tremendous rise in congenital birth defects and rare cancers. And the city worst hit is Fallujah. Fallujah was the focal point for some of the fiercest fighting during the occupation. 36,000 of the city's 50,000 homes were destroyed, along with 60 schools and hundreds of mosques. It was some of the most intense urban warfare experienced by the Marines since the Vietnam War. We talked to First Private Ross Caputi, a former U.S. Marine who fought in the siege of Fallujah and was so affected by what he experienced there that he started Justice for Fallujah, an advocacy group designed to bring awareness to the after effects that are ravaging the region.
We had sort of a shoot first, ask questions later type policy. There was a new thermobaric weapon that we tested for the first time in Fallujah. It's called the SMA-NE. And you fire it into a house, and the first thing it'll do, it'll suck all the oxygen out of the house. And anyone in that house, their lungs will collapse. After that, there's an extreme heat blast that just fries anyone within the general vicinity of this weapon. To create this thermobaric blast, it's suspected that uranium might be used.
We tried to talk to the U.S. Department of Defense about this issue, but they refused our request for an interview and declined to provide us with a written statement about the use of uranium munitions in Fallujah. However, in documents obtained via the Freedom of Information Act by the International Coalition to Ban Uranium Weapons, the DoD claims they simply did not record the use of uranium munitions before July 2004. So without much information from the U.S. military, it's been left to independent scientists and researchers to figure out what effects these weapons have had.
When you drop these bombs in an environment, what happens is that once that explosion occurs, fine particles that contain metals get spread all over the environment. It will enter the soil, it will enter the water, it gets taken up by plants. People who are in an area that's being bombed, it gets right into their system, and then slowly it exposes them from inside. These damages can be much more severe in a child or in a fetus because they don't have the detoxifying mechanisms that an adult body normally has. As early as 2005, there were reports of birth defects in various cities of Iraq. There was a 50% increase in the families that we studied in Fallujah. That's a huge, enormous jump. My best guess is that the source would have to be from military. There is no other source that I can attribute metal contamination to in these levels.
So
camouflage can be the difference between a soldier getting shot and going home. So a lot's riding on the next generation designed to outfit troops. It's only been 8 years since the Army spent $5 billion on camo that critics say didn't fool anyone. Soldiers complained to the point the Army abandoned its one-size-fits-all universal pattern.
So they were looking for camouflage that they could use everywhere.
Correct. And it didn't work anywhere.
Guy Kramer is one of the designers competing to win the Army's next multi-million-dollar contract. This summer, he showed us the science behind every shape, size, and shade of these pixels.
You now have your camouflage. So we're trying to trick the brain into seeing things that aren't actually there.
Digital patterns recreate shapes already found in nature, and 3D layering creates depth and shadows where none exist. That's today's design, but developers already have one eye on tomorrow.
What's coming up down the road and very quickly is the Harry Potter cloak.
What is it?
With that fictional cloak, Harry isn't just camouflaged, he's invisible.
My body's gone.
How invisible are we talking here? If I walked into a room with a soldier wearing one of these cloaks?
You wouldn't see him at all. He would be completely invisible to you.
This isn't make-believe. The military has seen the so-called quantum stealth technology. It works by bending the light around an object, even concealing most of a person's shadow. Imagine what that could do for a sniper hiding in a field, or the American pilots who ejected over Libya when their fighter jets crashed last year.
They could actually pull out, very similar to what they carry with a survival blanket, throw it over top of them, and unless you walked right into them, you wouldn't know that they were there.
So what was once firmly in the world of make-believe could quickly become quite real.
The science is in the special fabric, so you don't need a power source or some instruction manual to make it work. Theoretically, any soldier, even in the most remote location, could quickly put it on and get it.
At a 7,000-acre range just outside of Scottsdale, it's my turn to find out if the Dillon M134 performs as advertised.
M134 fires 3,000 rounds in 1 minute. That's 50 rounds in 1 second. Aggressiveness, intimidation, and domination all in one little package.
It's easy to use. Created from low-density titanium alloy, the Dillon team has crafted a gun that's 20% lighter than similar weapons. With this specifically designed mount, I can aim it easily at any angle. The action of the rotary gun is smooth, and there's none of the jerking action or barrel rise you would get from the recoil of a belt-fed gun.
Nothing yells suppressing fire better than the roar of the M134.
There's no denying that firing off thousands of rounds a minute into the desert is a whole lot of fun. But in combat, this rate of fire brings serious advantages. Because it's so lightweight, the Dillon Gatling gun can be mounted on a variety of platforms, on the ground, at sea, as well as in the air. The choice of rounds is also extensive.
The Dillon Gatling gun can fire all types of standard NATO 7.62mm ammunition. That includes ball, tracer, slap, armor-piercing, or even incendiary.
Sundown in the Arizona desert provides the perfect backdrop to show off the awesome power of the M134. In the dunes below, we've placed target vehicles for me to terminate. Terminate with extreme prejudice. Firing at night, you can clearly see just how accurate and dominating this weapon is. It's obvious why it can instantly change a battlefield environment.
Weapon is armed.
There's something about firing this Gatling gun that feels disturbingly beautiful. Let's just say I'm glad I'm the guy behind the M134 and not the one in front of it.
I want you now to imagine a wearable robot that gives you superhuman abilities, or another one that takes wheelchair users up, standing, and walking again. We at Berkeley Bionics call these robots exoskeletons. These are nothing else than something that you put on in the morning, and it will give you extra strength. It will further enhance your speed, and it will help you, for instance, to manage your balance. It is actually the true integration of the man and the machine. But not only that, it will integrate and network you to the universe and other devices out there. This is just not some blue sky thinking. To show you now what we are working on by starting out talking about the American soldier that on average does carry about 100 pounds on their backs. And they are being asked to carry more equipment. Obviously, this is resulting in some major complications, back injuries, 30% of them, chronic back injuries. So we thought we would look at this challenge and create an exoskeleton that would help deal with this issue. So let me now introduce to you Hulk, or the Human Universal Load Carrier.
With the Hulk exoskeleton, I can carry 200 pounds over varied terrain for many hours. Its flexible design allows for deep squats, crawls, and high agility movements. It senses what I want to do, where I want to go, and then augments my strength and endurance.
We are ready with our industry partner to introduce this device, this new exoskeleton this year. So it is for real. Now, let's turn our heads towards the wheelchair users, something that I am particularly passionate about. There are 68 million people estimated to be in wheelchairs worldwide. This is about 1% of the total population, and that's actually a conservative estimate. We are talking here about oftentimes very young individuals with spinal cord injuries that in the prime of their life, 20s, 30s, 40s, hit a wall. And the wheelchair is the only option. But it's also the aging population that is multiplying in numbers. And the only option, pretty much, whether it's stroke or other complications, is the wheelchair. And that is actually for the last 500 years, since it's a very successful introduction, I must say. So we thought we would start writing a brand new chapter of mobility. Let me now introduce you to E-Legs that is worn by Amanda Boxtel, that 19 years ago was spinal cord injured, and as a result of that, she has not been able to walk for 19 years until now. Amanda is wearing our E-Legs like that. It has sensors. It's completely non-invasive. Sensors in the crutches that send signals back to an onboard computer that is sitting here at her back. There are battery packs here as well that power motors that are sitting at her hips, as well as her knee joints that move her forward in this kind of smooth and very natural gait.
I was 24 years old and at the top of my game when a freak somersault while downhill skiing paralyzed me. In a split second, I lost all sensation and movement below my pelvis. Not long afterwards, a doctor strode into my hospital room and he said, "Amanda, you'll never walk again." And that was 19 years ago. He robbed every ounce of hope from my being. Adaptive technology has since enabled me to learn how to downhill ski again, to rock climb, and even hand cycle, but nothing has been invented that enables me to walk until now.
As you can see, we have the technology, we have the platforms to sit down and have discussions with you. It's in our hands, and we have all the potential here to change the life of future generations, not only for the soldiers or for Amanda here and other wheelchair users, but for everyone.
Thank you.